Welcome to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast.
Every week, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks with a fair amount of nonsense thrown in.
Sure, they're never the first with the news, nor the best connected, and definitely more off the rails than on.
But they've been talking puck the longest, and that counts for something, right?
So strap in for the longest running, best mediocre Canucks Hockey Podcast.
It's C4 with Chris and Anna.
Hello, Anna. Hello, Craig.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Craig. Here we are. Here we all are. Sort of in one piece.
And a day late.
Yes, we are a day late. My apologies. I was watching the Oscars last night at the Rio Theater with some adult beverages, so I decided probably not the best time to podcast.
It could have been the best time to podcast, to be honest.
Maybe it was. But yeah.
How was the Oscars party at the Rio?
It's always fun there. I enjoy the vibe. People always dress up, which is really cute. But yeah, I thought the Oscars was interesting this year. I thought it was well hosted. Conan O'Brien's a good host. There was some good speeches, good surprises. So yeah.
I didn't have it on to start when my wife and daughter got back from going to the Whitecaps match in the afternoon. They flipped it on, and the sole reason they wanted to see the Golden performance.
Right.
So we did see that, and then I saw some of the presentations. I wasn't too into it. Like I don't really follow that scene.
Yeah, valid.
So I can't, I know who kind of won. I got a real chuckle out of Jimmy Kimmel presenting the documentaries. I didn't.
I mean, we had unlike hockey, apparently you can get ties in Oscars because there was a tie, which
I read
was
about
crazy.
that.
Yeah,
I
I haven't seen that.
So
I think it's been about 20 years since they've had one. So yeah, that was interesting.
Well, and the funny thing is that prior to the Oscars happening, I was sort of reading an article about how voting works, and the only award that carries more than sort of first past the post or whatever type of voting is Best Picture, which is ranked. So Best Picture is a ranked ballot. And
yeah,
so
that makes sense.
that can't have I don't think that can have a tie because of the way the rank would work, because if it's a tie on points, whoever has the most first place wins, right? Whereas like everything else is potentially you could have 100 votes cast and it gets even down the top two and everyone else fights for the scraps. So
yeah,
anyhow.
So there you go. That was interesting, I thought.
Yeah. The fact that we're spending this time talking about the Academy Awards could probably give you an idea as to how our two teams performed. Though that, I think, is doing a disservice to the Vancouver Goldeneyes. They had two very competitive games. One that, quite frankly, the officiating... And I'm not a tinfoil hat guy, but I was reading some very salient commentary and I watched some of the highlights and was left with questions.
Yeah, we'll get into
whereas
it.
the Vancouver Canucks, they just suck.
They just suck. They don't 100% suck, but yeah, they pretty decently suck.
Well, you know what? I think I should qualify this. It's okay that they do. Like, I think you and I are on Team Suck for the Vancouver Canucks.
And it's also okay that they won a game. That was fun and brought some joy, and we're still last. So we allow this.
Yeah, and exactly the game they won is the same night that the teams that are chasing them for dead last also won. So that's a night when you win. You spread it around. You keep people engaged. It's all good. Yeah. So we'll get into the week that was for the two teams, talk a little bit about a couple of things, and then in Half Full, Half Empty, we've got some, topics of discussion that came out of the weekend, as pertains to the Vancouver Canucks. And all the run-of-the-mill probably going to go fully off the rails at some point. Hijinks, but to get to that point first, we have to go through Rewind. So the Vancouver Goldeneyes, we'll start with them, had a couple of games over the course of this week. Their first game, that being against the Boston Fleet, was one that you and I had suggested that Vancouver had no hope of winning. Well, they didn't, but one might argue they had a chance of winning, all things considered.
They gave it a red hot go, that's for sure. I will say, like, it was a frustrating game to watch because you're going in with not a great deal of hope that, you know, against the league leaders, a very dominant team in Boston. But yeah, like, Goldeneyes just really did not want to shoot at all. They came out, like, there was a 27 shots on goal from Boston total, 26 from Vancouver, and the first and second period felt very flat from that perspective. But Campbell was in net, which I suggested was a good idea because why not? And she played pretty well.
Like when you suggested it, it was more like, you know, let's put Mashmeyer in the game that we see as the dub, potentially.
Yes.
And you know, I think it's a strategic placement, but to her credit, Campbell, played
And
well. Caveat
here, it hasn't really been confirmed, but we presume Mashmeyer is suffering from an injury. I saw it on one hockey report, and then I have not seen it on the Goldeneyes report, so it does seem that way. But I will say Campbell acquitted herself very well. It was a bit of a rough and tumble game as it went on. It does seem to be that I'm not getting into tinfoil hat conspiracy theories here, but Boston seems very much like a team that will give it and does not want to take it. So lots of selling calls, but will give it to the team as well. I did have an issue with the refereeing, but it wasn't like game changing, I don't think.
Against the Fleet.
This is against the Fleet. I will say I was impressed by Hannah Miller. She's a very tenacious player. I still think
it should be noted that she had over a quarter of the Goldeneye shots with 7.
Yeah.
I also need to point out Sophie Jakes had 7 shots herself. So the two of them had over half of all shots for the Vancouver Goldeneyes.
Like, that's an issue for sure. But I did note that their shooting was pretty impressive. Overall, I will say, and I noticed this in the game against Ottawa as well, that I do think their shifts are still too long. I'd love to actually study this, and this is just my sense. But that there's a few players that are just running way too long shifts. So I would like to see if my eyes are correct in that. But yeah, like, all told, getting an overtime loss out of the best team in the league, that's not bad.
No, I mean, that's, you know, considering how you and I felt going into that game, that's a win. And I think it's also a sign that we're starting to see Vancouver really come into their own. It's unfortunate it's sort of happening this late in the season. It's not easy, you know, to find yourself a playoff spot when you're, I want to say giving up points because they got one out of that game, but you need to get more, regardless who the opposition happens to be. But no, I mean, they played really well against the Fleet. And I think that carried over with the Charge in town over the course of the weekend. Like when we're talking about shots, Ottawa took very few. Vancouver took them all. Yet, you know, we still saw, you know, some level of selective shooting. Sarah Nurse led the team in shots with 7. Hannah Miller, I think, was close behind at 5. But with 36 shots on net, you're going to spread it around a little bit more. Apparently, though, Sarah Nurse doesn't know how to hold onto her stick.
Yeah, apparently she's just real clumsy. Yeah, again, another frustrating game in terms of officiating, and it culminated in what is undeniably a game-changing call, where a slash was not called on Sarah Nurse during overtime. You only have 3 players on the ice, so of course taking one out is, was crucial in the Ottawa going up the ice and scoring their winner. Yeah, Sarah Nurse asked the ref, and the ref said, "You dropped your stick." And it does seem to me that I think it was Sarah Ness that also said they were getting some very inconsistent calls throughout the game, which I would agree with. Yeah, but I will say, like, I also want to put put some of that blame on Goldeneyes, because it seemed like they really had no plan when they were getting their shot on a power play. So that felt frustrating too.
Yeah, the challenge I have against the Charge is that Vancouver had the lead late, and they struggled to contain. The best way to sort of pause it. Ottawa gets that second goal to tie it up, and then it leads to Sarah Nurse being very clumsy, unable to hold a stick. Something she's known to do. But for anyone who's like, well, the officiating cost Vancouver the game. Officiating was horrible both ways. Us with Vancouver Goldeneyes lenses obviously see it particularly one way, but Vancouver was the better team that could not capitalize being the better team on the ice.
Like, they shouldn't have been in overtime in the first place, right? No. Like, so you got to concentrate for the last 50 seconds or whatever it was of the game. So, yeah, frustrating game all around. I will say, over both games, this may be a controversial take, but I think it's important for the crowd to come together with a common enemy, and that enemy being the refs. Like, I don't think... I think that's an important part of franchise growth.
I agree. I'm not knocking that theory of yours. I just want to point out that the officiating in the PWHL is almost expansion quality. I mean,
yes, and I do agree with that. Yeah, and it's more of a challenge.
I don't know how they look to improve upon that, because you think about the officiating hockey in Canada and the United States. There's a series of different levels, and if you were to go and simply agnostically look at just hockey as a sport, regardless of gendered leagues, the money is well established in the men's game.
Yes.
Not so much in the women's game. And the better officials will likely find themselves headed towards, AHL, NHL, PWHL. I feel has the ability to, develop its own pool officiating, and I think there's maybe more that they can invest in that side. But they, just don't have the dollar bills to back it up.
Yeah, and I will say, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but I mean, we can see in football, like, the WSL is in that position. The officiating is lagging so far behind the Premier League. I know people have their issues with Premier League refereeing, but, like, it's a huge gulf. And I do think it's one of those things where you do have to invest kind of in anticipation of it paying off, because you're not going to get a professional level league that you want without that.
And that's That's the thing
Yeah.
I'm sort of trying to raise is it has to be seen as an investment. The only way that you're going to grow the standard of officiating in your league is to fund it yourself. Whereas like the
Uh-huh.
NHL, they
Yeah, we have our
functionally can,
issues, but that's cultural, I think, rather than
yeah. But
necessarily
but the
level.
but the thing about the NHL is in the current state, the NHL can say, you're a superior official, come referee in our league. And I think all things being equal, referee chooses that direction. Now, that's not to suggest that'll always be the case, but I think the PWHL needs to do a better job at developing its own, baseline officials. But, the caveat to this is if they elevate officials to a certain standard, these other leagues are going to be like, hey, come work with us. And
Yeah,
that's,
but
I don't know
yeah,
how you solve that problem.
no, I don't either. But I guess cross that bridge when we come to it. I will say, like, I'm not being like I might be being a bit facetious here with the crowd culture and the fan culture of criticizing the refs. Like, I know it's a really hard job, and refereeing in Canada, particularly, is like almost the single. It's actually, I had a statistic, I may have brought this up before, but 48% of hockey referees in Canada have been physically attacked. So
Well,
it's a
does not surprise me.
hugely serious, like,
Yeah.
it's the most dangerous, basically, sport you can officiate. But yeah, by the same token, let's invest in proper officiating and it will improve.
And on that note, you're talking about, a physical attack. Verbal abuse is just
Yeah,
present. It,
yeah,
it, it, it- and
ever
I
present.
still like I if I go to, you know, professional games or even on this podcast, we'll talk about like, I don't know what the officials are doing. I'm not making it personal. I'm not using the language that gets brought out
Like
at the kids.
coaches, nonetheless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like and like I grew up refereeing soccer. I grew up umpiring softball. The abuse that I took game in and game out, with the caveat that someone thinks that they can say that because, well, he's getting paid, it's his job. And then wonder where all these young officials are going. Well, it's the young officials that ultimately get, built up to become the more experienced tenured officials and eventually potentially into the professional stream. You have to think that if you were to celebrate the fact that a lot of people, a lot of kids, a lot of young people leave that side of the
Yeah.
game because they don't want to put up with abuse as being a good way to weed out those that don't have the Constitution, to me that's just backwards, because what you're arguably doing is weeding out some of the best officials you probably would have had simply because they made smart decisions and are like, I don't need this in my life. And so, again, we're well off the rails, as I had sort of, prognosticated we would. But if you're a listener of this show, think before you start going after an official. I feel it's perfectly fine to sort of like articulate, oh my goodness, I didn't agree with that. Right? Like, but at the end of the day, especially with youth officials,
Yeah.
it's not your
Come
place.
on.
Not at all. At some point in time, you have to sort of flip that switch and realize that you're supposed to be, the responsible person in that space, and you have to understand where your responsibility lay. It's not with abusive officials. Back on track. The Vancouver Goldeneyes have a couple of games this week. They'll be taking on the New York Siren Wednesday, and then the Minnesota Frost on Saturday.
Sorry, I was just doing burr to the Frost.
Oh, I was like, did I screw something up? I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, what are you talking about? Okay, I get it now.
Yeah, cold.
Concussion.
Yeah, it's cold in here.
So
Anyway,
what do you think, Anna?
sorry. Obviously Minnesota Frost are having another good season. They're right up there with Boston. I definitely have a lot more confidence in the New York game, especially as it's coming off the momentum of these two overtime losses with that kind of hard done by thing of the last game. So I'm going to be confident and say full 3 points against New York, and then a loss against regulation loss against Minnesota.
That is sort of very aligned with where I'm at. I feel that the Siren are a team you have to beat. You're chasing them right now. They being in 6th, Vancouver being in 7th. You can't be giving up points at this point in the season, despite having a game in hand. Vancouver needs the 3 there. The Frost is a a tough game. That is a game against the team currently, 2nd in the league, only essentially 1 win behind the Fleet. Maybe you and I are being pessimistic considering what they were almost able to pull off against Boston, but I would be genuinely surprised and considerably pleased if they were able to get a dub there. Beating both the Siren and the Frost, very good, still doesn't quite get Vancouver into 5th, because Toronto has unfortunately more points on Vancouver, despite the potential 6 points to be had there. But it does, again, it gets them a lot closer and gets them that sort of realm of being in the playoffs, which right now, while no teams are eliminated, can't imagine.
It doesn't look great for Seattle and Vancouver.
Yeah, the Torrent, I think, are mathematically not out, but not in a position to be competitive at this point.
Not to be pedantic to someone that is recovering from concussion, but I'm going to. So it is the Sirens, plural. I think it is meant to be like the sea creatures, not a siren. But
no, I was thinking a siren, not sirens.
Okay, fair enough.
In the same context. But I'll be very frank. I'm running off of memory here, and
But it is. But that did draw attention to the fact that I didn't really think of, that there are what's like half the league are singular. No, 5 out of 8 are singular nouns. So I kind of like singular nouns. I'm wondering if 5 out of 8 is too many. But
so it should be the Vancouver Goldeneye.
Just one singular eye, like a duck with one eye.
It's the logo. It's a golden eye.
That's true. I do like the fact, just side note to finish off our PWHL segment, that they are leaning more and more into the fact that Goldeneye is much more famously than a duck, and a game on a James Bond game, so they're leaning a lot into the visuals of that, which I enjoy.
Well, okay, it's game, yes, but game based on movie based on.
But I think the game's more famous than either of those.
I would not disagree, but I am also a gamer, so I mean.
Yes, and fair enough for the correction.
Vancouver Canucks, as we had sort of said, a lot of suck. Lost against the Sens 2-0. Ended up winning a game against the Preds in a shootout 4-3. Lost against the Kraken 5-2.
I mean,
the Nashville game maybe was fun,
we deserve a little bit of fun in this relentlessly depressing season, especially that Ottawa game. Like, that was much worse than the losing to the Kraken, because it was just like, you kind of expect teams to come in and dominate the Canucks. That's not what Ottawa did. They could not score against the Vancouver Canucks. In fact, their only goal past a goalie was, to paraphrase Brian Howard Clough, they got it by cheating. Like, can we just, as long as we're talking about officiating, not only was the goal was reviewed for a hand pass, and then the situation room can't read the rule book.
Okay, so let's be very frank about how hand passes in the NHL are quite literally based on a coin flip by a blindfolded person.
But it's like, I don't fault the referees at all for the call. It's the fact that it got reviewed and they forgot the fact that if it provides a significant advantage, then
Okay.
it shouldn't be ruled out. But anyway,
Rules
this is
aside, in your opinion, was that a hand pass?
yeah. Like, because I think it's the result, not the intention. Like, yes, he was
Okay.
just trying to protect his face, but like,
Because for
why
me,
are
when
we
I saw
ruling
that,
by our thoughts that are
yeah,
in
and
a player's head?
to speak language I know you would appreciate. It's like a handball in soccer. Like
Yeah.
it's gotten to the point now where the spirit of the law is that ball needs to play hand. Now, hand being essentially below your shoulder all the way down your arm to your hand. But if your arm itself is in a natural position, it must heavily rely on like arm hand to ball. Generally doesn't get called. To me, it felt more along those lines. Like if it wasn't so confusing, I would have seen that. I'd be like, yeah, that's a goal. But we've seen like quite clearly it happened to brush a player's like glove on the way by. Probably doesn't even know it touched his glove. Get waved off. And
Mm-hmm.
then we have that one, which is reviewed for a lengthy period of time, and the determination is, oh yeah, no, that one counts. Like it is so beyond what anyone could come up to interpret. It almost feels that hand pass and goal reviews are almost like the new was he in the crease or not.
Yeah, I mean, Goldeneyes obviously had the Ottawa first goal was reviewed for goaltending interference. It wasn't at all. Was that the Ottawa goal? I believe so. I don't have concussion. I'm just confused. I've watched a lot of movies and hockey over the past week. Um, but yeah, like who knows? Like I kind of went into the review. My friend who doesn't watch a lot of hockey asked, "Oh, is that is that going to be rolled off?" And I'm like, "Well, it shouldn't be because it really wasn't goaltender interference, but who knows because NHL does not, and who knows if the PWHL do."
Um, yeah, so yeah, 2-0 loss against the Sens. I mean, Ottawa came in chasing a playoff position themselves and saw the Vancouver Canucks as the competition and decided Linus Ullmark didn't need to start. Not so
Yeah.
good for my hockey pool because
Oh no.
well, I mean, I'll actually pull the curtain back. So the hockey pool, I finished first overall. We're in the playoffs. I got a first round bye. This is unreal. Like I've never had this much success in a hockey pool ever in my life. Anyhow. So it did not cost me, but this going into this last week, it was first versus second. It just happened to be the way schedule was, and it was close. But said Linus Ullmark doesn't start because Ottawa was like, why would we need our number one against this team? That seems to be the trend when teams come into
Yeah.
Vancouver.
Yeah,
But
that's for sure.
the game against Nashville, it was a fun game. The Vancouver Canucks ended up winning in a shootout. At one point it was like, oh yeah, this game's over. Nashville stormed out to what is it, a 3-1 lead. And, as we've seen
Yeah.
with the Vancouver Canucks before, score first and then, watch the other team score 20 and call it a day. But in the third period, the Canucks did what they had used to do, score some late goals to make it interesting and then play the let's get it to a shootout because our goaltenders stand on their head game and got themselves a Jake DeBrusk shootout goal. What was interesting after the game, though, was conversation about how the vibes in the room were all vibing. Now,
Yeah.
you've seen old school, hockey personalities talk about when you're having a season like this, you don't celebrate that because, you're still losers, blah, blah, blah. But at this point in time, Vancouver Canucks got to take the vibes where they can.
Yeah.
But the scuttlebutt that has since come out, like Batch, who's just dropping juice on radio, that the room is different and a lot more light than it was prior to trade deadline. It has me wondering, was the problem Like, what? I mean,
Are
I
you
don't know how
gonna say Connor Garland? I mean, I hope not, but you've got to admit, like, the only way I can frame this is, like, everyone's been holding their breath, and Quinn
Yeah.
Hughes gets traded, and then two big players in Tyler Myers, big metaphorically, in Tyler Myers and Connor Garland get traded, and it's just like, okay, this is our group, for better or for worse. Very much for worse in this case. This is our group. Especially for players like Bessa, who's gone through the ringer once again. And it's just like, guys, we're in last place here, so we got to try and make something of our season and play for ourselves, because it's not playing for milestones or anything else.
What do you make of Born in the USA being the song that was played in the dressing room after a win?
I wish that I could believe that the players understand that song.
No, they
the
don't.
fact that it's a Vietnam War protest song. I mean, countless US teams have misunderstood that song, from US Olympic teams to, soccer teams, etc. So yeah, unfortunately not. But we do have a lot of American players. That was true before and after the deadline. Americans and Europeans.
That song became apparently the song soon after, booing of the anthems occurred. I'm pretty confident that wasn't a sign of solidarity, playing the boss.
Yeah. It is so funny to me, just on a wider note, that people will just misunderstand, the content of songs. I mean, the Canucks dressing room have a history of this. They were playing the Cranberries. They were playing a song about, the Troubles and Irish political violence for a long time before someone heavily said, this is weird. So, yeah. It's
But again, I mean,
whatever they need to do to get through to the end of the season, really.
Yeah. But this is the thing: is the Vancouver Canucks, I mean, as an organization, probably don't know much about the music they've played. This is the team, and I love it when this nostalgia rings true and Streets, is played. But Streets as a song is not a tune about GPS and wayfinding.
Yeah. I will say that at least you could argue that the kind of idiomatic meaning of that has been somewhat remade by Vancouver and by hockey history, whereas other things are just thrown in there without really consideration. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. And
whatever gets them through.
Yeah, Kraken came in and beat the daylights out of Vancouver. McMahon scored. McNabb scored, or McMahon and McCann. Sorry, I don't know. They have all these players. Can't keep track anymore.
By the way, such a weird situation with Bobby McNabb. What's his name?
McMahon.
Bobby McMahon. Thank you. That he can play. That he was able to play that game because he is a Canadian.
Yeah, visa issues.
Visa issues. Yeah. It's strange.
So the Vancouver Whitecaps SC, obviously I know a little bit about them. They've actually had players who've been playing matches here in Canada because getting a Canadian visa was far easier than getting a visa for the United States. The MLS is a US-based league, and traditionally professional sports players always got the VIP fast track. And in the current state of the world, nope.
I think they do. I think they probably do, but it's such a mess that. Plus, I think when I was listening to Too Many Men today, it seems like it's always been an issue if you get traded over the weekend, because government in the US don't work on weekends. So even when things were working, quote unquote, efficiently, So it's a strange one, but. Yeah.
So the Vancouver Canucks, over the course of the, next week? Yeah. I'm trying to do the math in my head here. The day is Monday. I'm so confused because we've, recorded a game.
Sorry.
recorded a podcast on a Monday night. So the Vancouver Canucks will be taking on the Panthers Tuesday. They then take on the Lightning on Thursday, the Blues on Saturday. And of all those games, I think, if they were to get points, it might be out of the Panthers. The Panthers have not been as good as they once were. But let's be frank. I mean, if they were to lose all three, I don't think you or I would be shocked.
We wouldn't be. I mean, our friend Rob Williams pointed out that Canucks were going for a back-to-back win at home for the first time in over a year when they lost to Seattle. So, yeah, that doesn't seem good, especially we're looking at a little home stretch here. They can't play at home at all. But yeah, neither Florida nor the Blues are playing up to their previous powers, but
true.
I wouldn't be shocked at an over
they're both
as
over
well.
500.
Yes.
Well, actually, no. I guess the Blues aren't over 500, but they're close enough. I just, let's be honest. The Vancouver Canucks suck, and if they win games, it's because they're running to. Well, I was going to say it's because they, want to ruin our dreams of a draft pick. On that note, last overall watch, the Vancouver Canucks currently have an 11-point lead over the Calgary Flames. But Vancouver does have a game in hand, so that could be potentially reduced to 9. I can't believe we're celebrating. Yeah. This is not even mediocrity. Whatever was worse than mediocrity is what we're celebrating here.
I just love all the language you're using, like lead, 11-point lead, and the chasing pack.
Oh, I know, right? But this is the thing. Like, think about how pessimistic this podcast has been, and how optimistic I'm sounding right now.
Yeah.
This is wrong.
Another fun fact, and by fun I mean sad. There was a lower mainland quadruple header on Saturday. The Goldeneyes, the Canucks, the Abbotsford Canucks, and the Giants were all in play and all lost.
Oh, and they all lost. Okay. So I had heard the quadruple header, and I was like, okay, I couldn't my mind reason the number of teams.
Yeah. Because I think it was referred to as a Vancouver quadruple header, which, I mean, it's not even 2 teams play within the city limits. But yeah.
Well, no, but that's the thing is when I think like a quadruple header, it's like, but the Whitecaps played on Sunday, and there's no way. Like I was thinking multiple sports, not hockey.
Yeah, that's fair.
Whitecaps did not lose on Sunday.
So
6-0 over. Who was in town? Sporting Casey. Took me a moment. No, Minnesota. It was Minnesota.
Oh, I was gonna say both sporting teams took a hell of a beating this week then, because Sporting also lists to Bodo Glimt. Anyway, interesting.
Anywho, we're going to take a short break. Yeah. Whatever. You're listening to the C4 Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna, Chris, and Craig.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on it.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He didn't play. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
I'm off my game. I'm still
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Concussion. Maybe a little loopy. So I think one of the challenges is that as days get on, the brain really struggles to brain. I'm on my game. Like, if we were to record when I get out for work at 6:45 in the morning, toss a little coffee in me and I'm good to go.
That's very impressive. My brain does not brain before 9 a.m. usually. and concussion or no concussion.
Well, regardless, if you've made it this far and you haven't turned off your podcast application, we wanted to talk about a couple of things that transpired over the course of the weekend here in Vancouver as it pertains to the Vancouver Canucks. I think the first thing, though, is what had happened on Saturday when some intrepid fans showed up and had in their possession bags that did not apparently fly with the Rogers Arena bag policy. Gemma Karsten Smith reported that some fans who came to the game with paper bags were told that the paper bags are not permitted in Rogers Arena. Now, this is not the first time paper bags have made their presence known in the Rog. And if you were curious, why are paper bags such an issue? Well, people who tend to express their displeasure will often cut holes in them and put the bags on their head to suggest they're embarrassed to be seen supporting or not supporting, depending on your perspective, the team of which jersey they probably still have on. It's about sending a message, about sending a statement. The rule has not existed as far as anyone is aware before. There is nothing, or at least there was nothing as of recording this, that suggests that paper bags are a problem in the context as to how they were going to be used. You can't use them to carry stuff. Like if they had stuff in it, I could totally see why the paper bags got confiscated. But there's no league rule or mandate either. Something has transpired to cause Rogers Arena security and hosts to remove paper bags from premises. And if you put paper bags on in stadium, you apparently get kicked out, and the hot word on the street is banned from the Rog.
I mean, one, is that such a punishment? Maybe not. But yeah, we'll say that it screams just fragile organization, right? Like it's kind of...
Oh, no doubt.
Like, as we say, Canucks are like leading the way right at the bottom of the league. Far and away leaders. They're coming out of like their second, I don't want to say second failed front office, but at least the second straight front office that have massively struggled. They're in the middle of a rebuild.
This front office has been rebuilding since they started.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
Since they showed up.
Yeah. But I just don't understand how you can't, like, fans are finding a humorous way, I would say, to cope with that. Mm-hmm. Not to mention the fact that ticket prices have, like, unless you're buying on the secondary market, like, really not dropping. And the concessions
if you wanted to go to a
costing arm
Canucks
and leg.
game, buy tickets on the secondary market. There are
100,000%
crazy deals to be had. And you know, we've talked about this in the show. Like, I've shared how I don't find that Vancouver Canucks hockey is accessible to me anymore, and that's not to suggest that I would categorize myself as not being in a position to afford to go to a game. It's that the cost no longer matches with what I feel I have available to spend freely on entertainment.
Yeah, and the experience you're getting.
Caps. No, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, that said, if you do elect to go, I'm not here to gatekeep. You can, cheer and support the team however which way you see fit. If you want to try to wear a paper bag, have at it. You want to throw your jersey on the ice. But can I suggest that due to the fickle nature of our current ownership group, that you don't go and throw your jersey on the ice? Because you keep those tarps on. Every jersey that hits the ice is a chance that the team will be told no rebuild. Let's go back to this world of mediocrity and suck. We need to understand this team is going to not be good for the remainder of the season and potentially next. But I'm not here to gatekeep. If you do wish to do that, that is your choice. I'm just asking you to think of the rebuild, to think of the draft picks.
But I will say, the Canucks organization should be grateful that people are still showing up at all. and whatever statement they're making, like if they really should not be focusing on that. But this management has a history of oversensitivity. They complain about the media all the time. They're very strict with what gets out and all of that stuff, given the fact that like they have way less media coverage, especially on the road, than they used to. It's a pretty soft environment, and this organization just continues to show itself as fragile. And yeah.
On the topic of fragility and a rebuild, Trevor Linden happened to join Scott Oak and Ian McIntyre on After Hours this weekend. Trev, like, okay, he's old, like he's got full on Silver Fox vibes there.
But so Fox.
I agree. We obviously see from a different perspective, but I agree. And most of the conversation has just been sort of what Trevor's been up to, outside of the game. And I'm like, the whole time I'm sitting there, come on, Scott, you usually ask tougher questions than this. Like, why are we dancing around? Well, okay. I mean, I actually quite enjoy when he brings in the social media questions. But it was funny because he's like, we're not going to have you relive what it was like being the president of the team.
And I was just like, that's the whole reason people are tuned in.
I'd like, and then they get to, I'd like to ask you a question about the rebuild. And, one of the suggestions is that you had the opinion that maybe the Vancouver Canucks needed a rebuild when you were still a president. And do you sort of have some satisfaction about knowing that the Vancouver Canucks are in a rebuild, and where would they have been had they listened to you? And Trevor, to his credit, he stick-handled like a pro. Like, that's the one thing about Trev, is that he knows that, what he says carries significant weight. But what he did say was that there was a point in time where he said rebuild was needed. Apparently, he recognized it when he came in, wanted to squeeze whatever was left out of that core, but, recognized that core was, as he called it, on the back nine. And unfortunately, in the group of three, which was ownership and Jim Benning, was the odd man out. And he held no ill will. Off he went, though I think, based on the rumors, there might have been a little ill will with how that all went down.
Yeah.
But he was then asked to, did he not get another phone call to be involved, maybe not as president or what have you. And Trevor had simply said he wanted to stay local, had a young family, and he wanted to be a dad. The funny thing is, like, he's talking about, like, yeah, I get that. That's what I want to be. But
yeah,
imagine if Trevor had actually won that conversation. Where would the team be? I don't know. I mean, there's no, for anyone who wants to say there's no guarantees in a rebuild, you're perfectly correct in saying that. But when you look at the number of teams who've executed rebuilds over the past 15 years, most have been successful or have seen an upward trend.
Yeah. I would say, honey, your odds go up when you file an application. Like, committing to the rebuild is the first step, and they really didn't want to do that. They've reluctantly sort of done it this time. But yeah.
No, they've been doing it for 2 years now, Anna.
Yes, they have been doing it for 2 years. I keep forgetting that part. It's so weird.
Yeah, just because they come out and tell you they're competing for the playoffs and going to win a Stanley Cup doesn't mean they're not actively rebuilding.
I do want to ask you, like, obviously you said he didn't really want to go anywhere else, but Vancouver to work in that front office there at the time. Do you think he is advertising his services now?
No.
You think it's just for fun?
I think so.
Or maybe he's remember, I'm available for after dinner speeches.
Okay, I don't know. I don't. Okay, there obviously there was a purpose as him being on After Hours. Okay, I maybe I'm a little too naive to think that there wasn't.
And maybe I'm too cynical.
But I feel that, like, where he's at and what he's doing. Like you look at like Club 16 Fitness. It felt
Yeah.
like an ad for the most part. On After Hours. Good on him for looking to make a buck. I don't get the feeling that he's looking to get back in the NHL. That's not to suggest it's not possible. Like a team comes and prevents them for an opportunity, and anything is possible. But he had commented about the success of some of the people that he saw at the tail end of his career, and then when he was in the front office. That kind of leads me to believe that in the right circumstances, he could get involved again with the Canucks. I don't understand how that would exist in the world that the family owns the team.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there's some
he may say there's
that
no
will block the water from under the bridge there.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine it. Maybe it was just
But he gives me Stan Smyl vibes.
Yeah. Maybe it was just I'm a public figure. Remember me and come to my gyms. But yeah, from a
consider
fan point of view. Yeah.
Well, from a fan, consider where he is in the whole, Smylosphere. When he left, I'm sure there are some people out there. Oh, he, wasn't what the Canucks needed at the time, and you know what? Maybe he wasn't. But we don't think fondly of Jim Benning. There are still people who don't think fondly of Mike Gillis. But pretty confident people still look at Trev as like, man, I really wish it worked out. I would wish there was an opportunity or a universe where he could come back. Like he is a Vancouver Canuck through and through. It's like Stan Smyl, GM or president or whatever the heck he was for a day. People bought into Stan Smyl. And like, that's the thing about Stan is like, he bleeds Canuck colors.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel Trev is in that sort of same vein. And I genuinely wonder, could we see a transformation that has a front office of a Ryan Johnson, a Chris Higgins, a Daniel or Henrik Steen like that? And I mean, Trevor sort of alluded to the possibility that something like that could happen. A Manny Malhotra.
Yeah,
could you?
Yeah, those stuff that dreams are made on. I would love to see that. I don't know if we will.
Don't let my dreams just be dreams.
Yeah, there we go. We'll see.
So yeah. Anywho, it's the stuff that we continue to dream about because that's all we have left is our dreams. The Vancouver Canucks are a whole lot of suck. And we're really hoping that the Vancouver Goldeneyes can turn things around, but put their foot on the pedal and then get it back into the race here. But we'll be back next week talking a little bit about the efforts of the Goldeneyes and how much level of suck the Vancouver Canucks maintain. We will be back probably at the regularly scheduled time. I don't think there's another Academy Awards situation that you'll tell me the moment we hit stop. Oh, hey, we need to shift it today. But you never know. And who knows what I might go and do. Maybe I'll go and, try to dive off the roof or something like that, like I'm a golden god. I don't know.
Please don't.
But here we are, end of a show. You got any final words of wisdom for people this week, Anna?
Always check your Oscar ballots. Yeah. Always check. All ballots. Your voting ballots as well. I guess those are also important. But double check your work.
Good advice. Words of wisdom from me is if you happen to be entering in a hockey pool or any type of sports pool, the best approach is to use your head, not your heart. This is probably the first time I've ever done that, which is not saying much because, let's be honest, I don't know a whole lot about hockey. But lo and behold, first in the league, got first round bye, going into the postseason on a high. 2 more wins, and I'm like a grand
I love
richer.
that for you. I will say I had completely forgotten about both my hockey pools until you brought that up. I haven't touched them for a month. Oops.
Oh, ouch. Anywho, If you want to share your thoughts on how your hockey pool's going or anything that we've said on the show, one of the best places to do that is in C4 Discord, discord.io/C4 podcast, or on social media. You can find the podcast on X at the C4 podcast, on Blue Sky, C4podcast.com, and on Threads at the Real C4 podcast. If you want to support the show, obviously tell a friend, talk to us, engage, but if you have a few bucks that you want to throw our way, that helps us too. If you go to buymeacoffee.com/C4 podcast, buy me a coffee, otherwise known as
Buy me a pint.
you can throw a couple of bucks our way as a one-off gesture that Anna and I will use at some point to buy a pint or pints. We are due, and I know I keep saying this, we'll get together at some point. But if you wish to support us on a regular basis, either monthly or annually, doing that helps us pay the bills, keep the lights on, so to speak, and we will shout your praises to the high heavens because it's you that helps us ensure that this podcast continues to be recorded. I was actually thinking about this just this weekend. I have been recording this podcast for so long that when I started, I was like mid-30s, early to mid-30s, sort of, where you'll be in a decade. Wow. And
I wish.
Now I'm pushing 50 here, so
it's crazy. I mean,
the Canucks have not really looked all that good the entirety of that time.
I know.
Here I am.
Just once before we die.
Yeah. If you want Anna online, she's A4Scythe03. I'm Light Force. And with all that said, we out.